Now, from taking the mickey out of me to a newspaper that's been taking the mickey out of just about everything ever since it was founded as a college rag in Wisconsin in 1988. The Onion has confounded the decline of American print journalism with a growing circulation and an army of devoted fans. Now it even has its own television station. Sarfraz Manzoor went along for the day to find out how they do it.
Life is usually stranger than fiction, and spoof newspaper The Onion knows it. Their satirical take on world events has entertained America for decades. The Onion uses the stiff, formal language of newspaper journalism to create stories that are both totally absurd and painfully true. I'm in New York to get under the skin of The Onion and maybe even get a headline of my own in the hallowed pages of the paper. Joe.
Good morning, how are you?
Sarfraz, good to meet you.
Good to meet you too. Well, come on in. Welcome to The Onion.
Thank you.
It's a fantastic, we have a fantastic hive of activity going on today, so why don't I show you around and you can sort of see where the magic, quote-unquote, happens. I've been in The Onion for 17 years. I started back when it was in Madison, Wisconsin, and I was a student. And
well, I'm guessing the offices weren't as swanky as they are now, then?
No, we were actually below a key shop, Bill's Keys in Madison, Wisconsin. It was and we were in the basement. Back then, when I started, I think we got paid $5 for attending a meeting, $5 for writing a story, and usually I'd turn right around and spend that on beer.
The Onion was set up way back in 1988 by two university students, initially as a way of distributing discount coupons for local businesses. Its distinct outsider stance and surreal humour soon found a wider audience.
Here's where we have our various and assorted, some complaint emails, some emails of...
So do you quite like it when people slag you off?
I don't think it's really our intention to make people angry. Sometimes it's a happy byproduct of what we do.
Having no interest in what people think isn't just reserved for their readers. Wannabe writers have a tough time too. I've got a meeting with editor Joe Randazzo. Okay, so say somebody wanted to kind of crack The Onion. They wanted to get, you know, a headline. They had an idea for a headline and they wanted to get it into the paper. How does one do that?
Someone like you?
Just randomly, yeah.
Well, it would never happen. The whole thing about The Onion, and maybe this is shattering all of that, but it's sort of all presented anonymously. Like, nobody gets a byline. There are characters, but they're fictional. So the Onion was always this kind of great mysterious thing that seemed to be doing comedy that nobody else was doing, and there was no way to figure out who was doing it or who was working on it, because everything was kept completely anonymous, and that's part of the character of The Onion.
There is a sort of a world view about a lot of other stuff that seems to come out from there, you know, a world view about the pointlessness of relationships, the fact that jobs are soulless and crushing. That seems to be a sort of a central message in The Onion. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, well, isn't that true, though? I mean, isn't that all true? When's the last time you had a great job?
Well, you're doing a dream job, aren't you?
Yeah, but it becomes drudgery after 2 weeks. Now I'm trapped.
If by some freaky sci-fi experiment you found yourself in The Guardian or the New York Times, do you think writing for them would be harder or easier than doing what you do?
I think in both ways it would be harder, because we get to make up whatever we want. If we don't feel like reporting on the city beat, we can do a story about tigers if we want to, or monkeys.
Well, I want to get one of these ideas, at least one of my suggested headlines in The Onion.
All right. Let's hear what you got.
Okay. Area man's existential pains cured by joblessness.
Too existential.
Irony of mustache lost on potential girlfriend.
That's too mustachy.
Laws of probability thrown into chaos after another crappy Jennifer Aniston movie.
Jennifer Aniston might be kind of low-hanging fruit, but if you find somebody who seems to love the moment, yeah, it's really low-hanging fruit.
Rehabilitation of Bon Jovi only decades away, scientists warn.
It's not bad. You might want to pump up the beginning of it a little bit, like something to make it sound like they're going to be back in full health, which is what rehabilitation means, but like something to tip that a little bit more. And maybe a slightly worse band than Bon Jovi. As draft one, day one, what do you reckon? I would advise you later, you know, if you're going to try to do this again, to use just pull stuff from your personal life. Yeah. Observations and things from your personal life and put those into a news voice. Yeah. Or kind of extrapolate a small thing onto the national or global level.
Featured editor, proprietor, Joe's Cold Beverages. That's my official title. So what I have is I have a lunch special which consists of grilled cheese with real Wisconsin smoked Gouda and a soda, chips, and some soup for $6.50. You can't beat that. That is a fantastic price overall. And it's also made with love by me, Joe Garden. So here's Judy Adler now. Why, as a matter of fact, it is Judy Adler. Here you go. Here's a sandwich.
Delicious.
Joe didn't ask if I wanted a sandwich.
And I have another satisfied customer.
The Onion itself is no longer an outsider though. While real news organisations are shrinking, The Onion is getting bigger. In 2007 they launched the Onion News Network.
Scientists at Tulane University's Primate Research Center announced they have taught a gorilla that someday it will die. Nate Meredith has more in the lab report.
Thanks, Dan.
Was The Onion something that was kind of there in your childhoods when you were growing up or when you were at college? And did you have ambitions to work here before, or did you just land into it?
When you'd read about The Onion, you'd read of it being this small group of people, and because it was so consistently funny, I was convinced that I had no talent whatsoever, and that it was impossible to ever penetrate such an organization, because if it's a handful of people, how could they possibly be so consistently funny? So
there was something I remember about Obama's followers and being completely lost immediately afterwards or something. There was a video like that which was really clever, wasn't it?
Yeah, basically realizing that they have nothing else in their lives. Once they've gotten him elected, and now they have absolutely nothing to live for or do.
Experts say some voters' fixation with the Obama campaign ran so deep, they've lost the ability to process non-Obama related information.
TV may be the future for The Onion, but I still want to get into the paper. I've drawn a blank with my headlines, but I hear the graphics team are looking for new faces.
And you can't tell me anything about what this is going to be used for? No, nothing. And I have no legal rights, no redress?
We don't really know what it's going to be used for.
Okay.
Contact into the lens, shoulder straight.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
Smile with no teeth. No smile at all. A little angry. Open your eyes. And raise your eyebrows up a little bit. You ready? That's it. Perfect. Oh. Beautiful.
So I've done it. I've got myself into The Onion, though it's not exactly how I imagined. It's the end of the day, and the last person for me to see is Todd Hanson, one of the longest serving members of staff, and a man so laid back he's practically horizontal.
The Onion's pretty fearless in terms of who it goes after. It doesn't seem to care too much who it risks offending. I guess that must be quite an important aspect of being independent, and also something that would be threatened if it was to become more of a corporation.
That remains to be seen. You'd think so. But so far, even though we've become a bigger business and more corporate in the type of environment in the office, so far that hasn't happened. And hopefully it never will. Hopefully. I'm not optimistic though, because I'm not optimistic about anything. So I suppose.
But were you more optimistic 15 years ago, 20 years ago when you?
No, I've been a pessimist my whole life. So I suppose we're all going to go down in flames one day, in one way or another.